What is your will, my master?
Hey, what's up, Carter? Quick demo video for you for your 89 Sabers DV3. Just got this done this morning, early this morning, and want to go over it with you. There are some things to this saber I want to talk about, but mainly, it's installed with the Proffie V2 that you asked me for. 2-button setup. So your front of this switch box right here, you may not be able to hear that click. That's your activation, and then your back here, that's your auxiliary. You've got CC sabers in here for your main lit PCB, and then how you get to everything is you just want to unscrew the handle. This saber came completely unassembled. I went ahead and I designed a grip guide this morning so I could put those on evenly, so you'll find all those grips are on exactly even. But you take that handle off, and then here's your chassis. It says 89 Sabers DV3 over here in Sith text. It says Solo Sabers over here for me in Sith text. You got the Empire symbol, and then I went ahead and I put your logo right there on the shelf for the Proffie. And of course, you got your Proffie right here. This is just a tight snap fit down into the shelf. There's no glue. You can get to your micro USB from here, but if you want to get to your SD card, you will need to pop the board up like that. Do what you need to do for programming, and then snap it back down into place. If you keep doing that over and over time, and you feel like it's not holding as tight as it used to, you can just use a little bit of E6000 on the sides of the board. It will hold it down, but E6000 can be pulled up if needed. But for right now, it's a very tight snap fit. It would probably withstand about 7 or 8 times of being popped in and out. I wouldn't pop it all the way out. I just always suggest popping it up diagonally and then snapping it back down. That's best practice. You've got a Smuggler's Outpost 28mm Elite speaker back here. And then you got a removable battery setup, right? So spring side over here. This is an all-in-one chassis, meaning that the PCB holder for your main lit PCB is part of the chassis. So this chassis actually goes from about right here to the end, obviously. That's all one piece, right, with a hole in the middle here for your switch wires. But it's a static chassis, right? Before we put a battery in, let's talk about the saber a little bit. This saber takes a lot of parts that you have to glue on. This piece had to be glued on. This piece had to be glued. The switch plate right here had to be glued on to the 2 sides of the switch actuator, so that's glued on. This gold greebly, or the bronze greebly, and this bronze greebly as well, they all had to be glued on. And that was it for glue. But for the shroud piece, and I don't know if you noticed this or not, the shroud was actually very loose fitting on the saber. So what I had to do is I took the shroud off, I put some heat tape, which looks like this, right? Just a small, like, I think I put like a wrap and a half of that on the tip of this chrome piece, and then I press fitted this emitter on, so it's nice and locked down now. It's not going to go anywhere on you. I also did have to glue in this piece right here. This piece was interesting because it had a hole for the screw that holds the switches in, but when you put that in, the hole didn't line up, and it also got in the way of the switches actuating. So I actually I took that out to the garage, I dremeled that down, and then I glued it in, but it's nice and solid now. So that's all the stuff I had to glue on. When it came to the handle, at first glance, when you go to measure the inner diameter of this handle to make a chassis, I got one measurement, but I noticed right before I drew it up, right where the Covertech wheel screws into the handle, and I don't know if you're going to be able to see it in camera or not. You can almost see it there. There's a thickened ring right here. It's about that thick or so, but it goes around the handle. That had to be accounted for. So that inner ring is actually what the diameter of this chassis is, so that it could slide past that with no problems. I didn't want to make the chassis 2 different diameters. I thought it would look weird. So that's what we did. So after all that, right, we'll throw a battery in this guy. The battery is a very tight snap fit into this chassis. It's meant to be that way. Especially I went for a tight snap fit on this one because the handle is slightly larger than the chassis because I had to get past that ring, right? So I want to make sure that battery stays in there nice and tight, and it does. One more thing I did is I would typically make a config file for the Proffie, and then I give you a copy of that. But the supplier that I get my Proffies from has a large amount of sound fonts that come preloaded on these. I don't typically send them out, but I don't have a config file for them because they don't give me the config. They just has the files on it, the sound files. So I left those on there, so you can play around with those. If you want to keep them, that's fine. If you want to erase them, that's fine too. But there's quite a few on here. But we'll hit activation. We got a nice smooth swing. Auxiliary back here. You know, to get to your sound track on each one, it's just a long press on the activation. We'll go another sound font. Turn off. This takes a 7/8 inch blade, but the blade socket is super tight with the chrome that's been applied to this saber. It makes it slightly less than 7/8. I've got a brand new 7/8 blade that I made for testing that I can't use on the saber. I had to go back to my old one. This one's been sanded off and on for over a year to fit different hilts, mainly 89 Sabers hilts, and it is still extremely tight, right? So I'm going to turn this saber on while I put the blade in, so I know when I hit the pins, just like that. Now your blade retention screw is right here on the bottom. I'm not going to use it for the sake of this demo. I don't need it because the blade's so tight, but just know it's there. It's not the top one. Don't mess with that one. It's this bottom one right here. So we'll turn it on.
Tell me, is this training?
My training? No. Always training. The universe is. A dark path we walk.
I know. There's no other way out.
Everything's working like it should. Good flash on crash, right? And of course, to get blade lock up, you hold aux and hit the saber.
You've killed enough.
You won't see the blade lock up because this is a test blade, and this is programmed for a full-length blade, but you'll see that in the middle of your blade on a full-length blade. You got motion controls, so swing on, twist off. We'll do one more. Just like that, and then we'll go over taking the battery out. Everything on this guy is super solid now and working like it should. I just would caution about the pieces that I had to glue on. I use a very good glue, but whenever you have to glue things on, I just like to, just tell you about it in case you like to heavy duel or whatever it is you like to do with your sabers. So we'll take the handle off, and then from the positive side of the battery over here by the speaker, you should be able to pop it out with your finger just like that. Yeah, and that is pretty much your DV3. Let me know if you got any questions. If not, this guy will go out in the mail to you Monday. Thanks.